culture that loves the school. What can I do to take care of the school today? You have that culture, your teachers are going to feel blessed. They're going to feel encouraged. They'll have their problems, but then be the shepherd and show up.
Welcome back to the Doc School Leader Podcast, where we're dedicated to the renewal and growth of school leaders. I'm your host, Kyler Martin. We hope to help you lead your school community with greater wisdom and courage. Transformative schools need effective leaders, and effectiveness requires patient training. Here we go. What does it look like to shepherd your school? This episode presents a passionate challenge by a board member to school leaders and to board members in particular to take full ownership of their responsibility for the people under their care. Ernie Weaver brings school board and a business leadership experience to this talk, as well as perspective from within the classroom through his own time as a teacher and as a son and brother of longtime educators. Ernie shoots straight here. Make the hard decisions for the good of your school and stick with your team no matter what. And he talks about some of the what. He outlines the principles of the book, The Way of the Shepherd, and applies them to a school setting. His talk is full of examples and concludes with a collection of ideas to try. See the show notes for a few other ideas from a post-session discussion. Here's Ernie.
So my name is Ernie Weaver. I'm from the Osceola community in Texas. I have been on the school board for, I don't even remember, 12, 13 years, somewhere in there. Very passionate about education. I come from a family of educators. If you know my dad, Chester Weaver, some of you might. I have a brother, an older brother that serves in our school and has been a teacher for 15, 16 years. Still teaching. My dad still teaches over 40 years, I think. On to the topic, encouraging and blessing your teachers. So when we leave here today, I want you to understand the value of good relationships with your teachers, and I want to give you practical ways to build that relationship. So I'm not going to teach you anything new here today. You're not going to hear any truth bombs, but it's just a good reminder for you to go home and go, yeah, I need to do that. Or maybe there's little tips that we can learn from each other. This topic is so important. You're in leadership. That's your gifting. You stand at 30,000 feet and you look out over the horizon and say, this is where we're going, but you need a team of people to do that. You got to take care of that team. If you don't take care of that team, you're not going to have anybody to teach the school. You don't want to be looking for new teachers all the time. You need to take care of the ones you have. And so my goal today is to help us with that thought. When they asked me to have this topic, my mind immediately went to something that I have been learning. And there's this little book called The Way of the Shepherd. So I have this book. I printed out, there's 7 principles, the way of the shepherd. There's 7 principles, and I have this printed out and on top of my desk, and I try to look at this every day. So when I thought about this topic, I said, this is the direction I'm going to go. So bear with me. If you've read this book or you know this book, it's going to sound familiar. But I think that I believe that it's a structured way of approaching this issue and the steps that you need to take in encouraging and blessing your teachers. Know the condition of your flock. Pay attention to what's going on in school. You as a board member need to know what's happening in school. Don't show up once a month. Teachers, how's school going? I'm jotting down notes. All right. 30 days later, you come back. Teachers, how's school going? A lot of your communities, you have to have children in school to be able to be on the school board. All right? So ask your children, what's happening? And don't ask questions like who was naughty in school today, but ask probing questions. Who got in trouble? Did you get in trouble? What happened? and just listen. Listen, keep your ear to the ground. And I'm telling you, if your children are bringing wild stories home, there's a problem in school, right? And you need to just go, okay, there's an issue. And what are you going to do? Wait for 30 days and go to the school board meeting and say, hey, what happened there? No, next morning show up. There's a teacher that's in trouble. They need help. And we'll get into that some more. Spend time with your teachers. If you're a small school, this is even so much more important. When you have 3 teachers in your school and 1 man teacher, and the world is passing him by, right? He's sitting in a little room with 20 students, and everybody's doing things and going places, and he's not paid very well. Nobody, and then they just show up, and he's all stressed out. And they're like, just calm down, it's not that bad. Maybe what he's crying for is some attention. I knew a teacher one time that says, I just need an adult conversation. So, those of you that are in the business world, your employees are adults. Everybody that you interact with is an adult. You can have adult conversations. This individual can't. He might have a co-teacher, but she's stuck in her room having childish conversations too. You need to show up and just, if you're in a larger school, then you need to show up. You need to be visible. We'll get into that in a minute. It is so important that you know the condition of your flock. You cannot bless your teachers if you're not present. You have to know what's going on. Something that you need to do is create a systematic way for your teachers to spend time with you. For us, that looks like the day before school starts. Well, it used to look like this. We do different things, so bear with me, Ryan. But something like taking pizza to school and eating with the teachers. The day before school starts, they're hectic. They're not leaving the school, right? They're trying to pull last minute things together. Show up with food. They are the most stressed out they're going to be all year long. They don't know what's going to happen. They have new students coming in, and they're frazzled. Just show up. Hey, I'm here with pizza. Everything calms down. You're present. The help has arrived. The cavalry is there. There's food. You get my point? If you're a larger school, plan a banquet. So we have banquets throughout the year where we go to a board member's house and he cooks steaks. And we sit around a big table and we spend time together. Have team building exercises. Your people have to see you. You have to see your people. You have to be with your people to be able to help them. They're not going to trust you with their big problems if you're not present all the time. They're not going to trust you with their little problems if you're not around. You need to be close enough to know the condition of your flock, and you need to discover the shape of your sheep. How many of you own sheep? I own sheep. I like sheep. I've only owned sheep for I need to talk to you. I've only owned sheep for a few months. I have 13 sheep and I'm loving it. Sheep are funny. But you got to discover the shape of your sheep. You got to know that you have the right person doing the right thing. You got to know that you have good teachers and good people. You got to figure out what kind of people you have. You need to discover who your people are so that you can connect with them and teach them and help them. There's a lot of things. You've got to understand the people that you have. And when you have people that are looking for a job at your school, now I know some of you are just happy to get anybody, but don't inherit other people's problems. Don't start with bad people and expect to run a good school. You've got to know the shape of your sheep. It's not something that we do a lot of, but here is a website. I'm a fan of DISC profile. How many of you know about personality profiling and DISC and all of that? Okay, so again, I'm talking to you about stuff you already know and just kind of bringing it over to school. If you want to know what kind of teacher you have, figure out what kind of teacher you have. And if you understand that he's a high D and you go into meetings with him, you're butting heads with him, right? That's how he communicates. If he likes steadiness and control and structure, then you're not hitting him with ideas. You've got to understand who you're dealing with so that you can help them. And this is the one I like. Just use, there's a lot of them. Use the one, but understand who your people are. Discover the shape of your sheep. Make sure you have the right person doing the right thing. Make sure you start with good people. Don't inherit other people's problems. Spend the time and money to know who's on your team. Help your sheep identify with you. This is so important. How many of you have a mission and vision statement for your school? How many of you have a handbook for your school? Oh, good. Very good. Good for you. You need to know. So, they need to be able to hear you. They need to be able to see you. You need to build trust with them and set high standards. And then communicate relentlessly where you're going. Understand your roles. You are not there as a school board to rubber stamp their ideas. They have a job to do and you have a job to do. Your job is to look 30,000 feet in the air and look out ahead and say, that's where we're going and this is what we're doing. And then help them come along and identify with that vision. If they don't catch the vision, it's not going to work. But your job is to chart the course, not to be just little problem solvers on the side to help them settle squabbles and all those other things. You need to communicate relentlessly. Help your people fit into that cause and bring them along. Give them importance and give them a job to do. Some of these overlap. Make your pastor a safe place. Call chronic instigators. If you have a bad teacher, get rid of them. All the teachers are hard to find. Make your pastor a safe place. How do you know that you're not running off good teachers because you have bad teachers? You have people quitting. Maybe they don't, it's not that they don't like your school or you're not paying them enough. Maybe they have a hostile work environment. Call your chronic instigators. Yeah, but he's been here for 30 years and he's the best teacher we've ever had. Make the tough decisions. Understand where the problems are and make sure your pastor's safe. Your pastor has to be safe. Deal with problems quickly. Don't let them fester. Let your people see. Here again, some of these overlap. Be there when they're in trouble. And make sure that they have opportunity. Does your school have green pastures? Is there a place for your teachers to go, to grow into? Is there new opportunities that they have? Is the school getting better? People tend to get bored over time. And if you're a career teacher and you're really good at it, and you just show up, as my brother says, sometimes I get tired of teaching really good men and children. I want a challenge. I want to go teach some bad children. Okay. He needs green pastures. So we ordained the ministry and loaded him up with challenges. Now he's his hand. The school didn't do that, don't get me wrong, right? But he's much more content. He's got a lot of other things in his mind. But make sure your people they want to go to training, they want an education, they want things, give it to them. Make a safe pasture for them. Give them a place to develop and grow. Build a pasture that they can flourish in. It's your job. Staff of direction. Make sure that your teachers know what they're doing and why. Get out in front and lead. Clearly define objectives. They need to know what they're doing. Define your objectives. If you were a craftsman, if I came to you, let's just assume that you were a chainsaw artist, and I came to you and said, I want a bear out of this stone. And you set to work carving a bear out of the stone. Or that's what you heard me say. And I showed up 2 weeks in, and you're like, 3 days from done, you're down to the sander and the Dremel, making it beautiful. And I go, that's not what I want. That's not what I asked for. Okay, you could say, all right, I'll start over. But no, you put your heart and soul into this. Your life is on, you have a piece of yourself in this. That's how your teachers feel. They are putting their heart and soul into these children. And if you come along and say, that's not what you're supposed to be doing, you're supposed to be doing this over here. You should have told me that. I could have done that. Clearly define the objectives. They need to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Teachers are wonderful people. They will get on board with you. They want to be a part of something. They want to be a part of the team. And your vision should not be just stick around. We just need you to stick around. Please come back next year. That should not be your vision. It needs to be bigger than that. Don't micromanage your teachers. If you set clear expectations for them, you don't have to micromanage them. If you give them boundaries, then you don't need a bridle. A horse that's being pulled on is not running full tilt, maybe for a racehorse, but you get my point, right? You gotta let them go. You have to, if you hire the right people, you can let them go. The rod of correction. So there's 3 aspects to this. Protect your people. Stand in the gap. If you have a parent that's beating up on your teachers, you need to be there and get between them. Okay, so let me interject here. Sorry for those of you in my last class. There's 3 parties in a business transaction. So let me ask this group. Who's your customer? In school, who's your customer? Parents, that's your customer. What's your deliverable? What's your product? What are you trying to accomplish? Who is that? That's the students. They're not your customer. And who's your stakeholder? Or who owns the company? Might differ, but a lot of times it's the church. Relevant. Some of you are patron-owned schools, that's a little bit different. In business, if you have a customer that's just wearing an employee out, what do? Hand them the phone. Get in the middle of it. You're in charge. Stop letting your customers beat up on your employees. Protect them. And be just adamant. These are my people, and I care about them, and I have their back. And if they're in the wrong, which we'll get to, then I'll just be as passionate about that too. And we'll call chronic instigators. Don't hear me saying that you just, bar none, teacher's always right, forget about it, that child is just stupid. No, there's a problem, teacher, we need to address that, right? But your first line of, you should be your teacher's first line of defense. And if they feel your protection, then there's trust that's built. And they'll bring more problems to you. And the problems that you can catch early and you understand early, you can fix before they turn into big thieves. And the whole world blows apart. Always approach the discipline as a teaching opportunity. Correct. There's a rod of correction. You gotta just deal with things. And bear with me for a moment. I just need to preach for a minute. Y'all need to grow a backbone. Need to stop just letting people run over you. Have a vision and have a goal and stick to it. If your boss, your stakeholder, the church, tells you to change course, you need to change course. But don't just let the lowest common denominator in your community rule the school. You're in that position for a reason. You're in leadership. Lead. Correct things that are wrong. Use the rod of correction. If a teacher out of line, deal with them. If they're a 30-year teacher and you can't afford to lose them, deal with them. Inspect. Regularly inspect. Inquire about your teacher's progress. Your teacher might be making massive improvements, and if you're not knowing about it, then they feel lonely and they feel like they have put this effort in for nothing. Give them recognition. Inspect. How's it going? How's it doing? In our school, we sit in the board meeting every time the achievement tests come out. They're all done. They come back with platforms, and we line them all up on a table, or multiple tables. And the whole board walks around these tables and looks at all the achievement tests. We study, and we're inspecting our teachers. We're thinking about what happened, and we're asking questions. Why does this grade have low scores? Everybody, even the smart children, had low scores in this area. What's going on? Teacher goes, oh, it's because of this, this, and this. Oh, great, understand. We don't teach that until the next year. That form's just going on. Okay, perfect. Why does this teacher constantly have trouble in this area? Well, that teacher just doesn't do that well in that area. Pay attention to that. Maybe that comes in the hiring decision. Maybe they're a great teacher. You just need to sit down with them and say, this is an area you need to grow in. And give them feedback. They need feedback. If they don't ever understand, we naturally just continue to do what we've always done until we have a compelling reason to do something different. Give your teachers that. Regularly inquire about their progress. If you want them to improve, there's a good chance they will improve. There's a big principle in inspection. Trust, but verify. You need to verify things. You need to give them trust, give them space, but then verify. I have the best teachers around. They can do no wrong. I'm just going to set it and forget it. No. You trust them. They're the best teachers around. You hired the cream of the crop. You got the best around. But you need to verify that. The heart of the shepherd. If you're in this position, you have to care about your people. You have to care about your people. You have to have that heart. You need to love these people, care for them, and want their best interests. Every day, somebody's going to pay for your leadership. Either you or your people. You need to make that decision. And if your teachers are paying for your leadership day in and day out, don't ask them how to hire teachers. Fix that problem. Maybe you need your teachers to stay around. Leadership is a lifestyle, not an event or an activity. You need to have, and a lot of you said you manage people. Here again, bring this over. What do people want? If you look at surveys, the most important thing to employees is not money. That is not what defines. People don't quit jobs, they quit managers. Do you know that? Number one reason people leave employment is not because they didn't like the jobs, because they don't like the people that took over them. Pay teachers well. Don't hear me saying this one, but it's not your biggest problem. If you have a really good teacher and you have a lousy school, you think he's going to stay around? If you have a really good school, you have supportive community, you have good patrons, you have a great working environment, and you just can't pay as much as the school next door. Do you think money is going to be their only deciding factor in that decision? No. No. So it's all great theory, you know. Everything I talked about is all stuff you're already doing. I get that. But we need some encouragement. What are some practical tips? What are some things that we can do? Okay, infuse every position with importance. You have a second-grade teacher that teaches 4 students, and you ignore her. Don't ignore her. Teaching second grade is just as important as teaching 12th graders trigonometry, right? She has a very important job. She is the kingpin in the school. How are those second graders doing? What's happening in your classroom? How are you developing as a person? How are you becoming a better second grade teacher? They care about me. My job is important. I want to be here. Learn their love language. And I know that's a wore-out term, but understand what brings them appreciation. If their love language is gifts, and you show up with cookies after school, you're God's gift to mankind. Right? If their love language is affirmation, and you're doing a phenomenal job in school, I just love what you're doing. Keep it up. That's worth $3,000 in pay, right? I don't know what the number is, but you hear my point. If what they like is time with you, and you get off work at 3 o'clock, drive past the school and just plop down in their reading area in the back and sit back there and doze off if nothing else. Show up. If quality time is there, don't sleep, obviously. If their love language is quality time, they want quality time. But you get my point. Show up. It doesn't have to be a meeting. It doesn't have to be about anything. Just walk in their classroom and look around. Oh, this is amazing. You're doing a great job. Can I sit down? And just sit there and relax. Listen to it and start talking. There's people that quality time, just start talking. When you're relaxing, he's relaxing. Or she. Create non-direct compensation ways. Teacher in our school drove a ratty old car. And she drove a ratty old car because she's super frugal. She had the money. But she said, I'm on the market for a new car. And we said, correct. And we went out and started a car fund for Miss Eileen. And we raised $5,000? Something. Well, $4,000 was buy you a car. But on top of the money she was going to spend in the car, bought her a nicer car. Right? And maybe you can't do that. So you have young ladies that come from other communities, right? Her dad always fixed her car. She didn't know how to fix a car. What can you? If your car ever breaks down, I expect you to call. And I'll tell you where to take it, what to do with it. Call her dad and say, anything you need, call me. Maybe she wants a certain kind of housing, but it's not a part of your budget. Maybe you can help her get that housing outside of her compensation. Maybe there's somebody that's generous that can chip in. These are all ways that you can work maybe outside. I don't know what your situation is, but just ideas. Team building exercises. Hold a banquet, informal fellowship, icebreakers, team builders. We hire a lot of new teachers or something. We try to make it to where the board is not this 5 big scary men that are just going to tell me what to do. Like, bring your families, be personal with them, help them identify with you. Bring the team together. Spoil them. You should have snacks after school at your school a lot. Go to Walmart, spend $50, it's not that expensive, and buy a whole bunch of snack food. Take it to the teacher's lounge or the teacher's area and stock it. Bring coffee, put it beside the coffee. Buy them a coffee maker. Spoil your teachers. And I'm sure there's some lady in your church that is just phenomenal with this kind of thing. Just bringing little things and making it just wonderful. Tap her on the shoulder, have her do it. Schedules. Facilitate schedules where they can get into their patrons' homes. They don't want to call and invite themselves, so you make a schedule. Here's the schedule. You're going to go to this person's house on this day and this person's house on this day. Beginning of the year, here's the schedule. Get them, that helps them a lot. Get them into their patrons' homes. Help them understand why Johnny brings his homework home undone. That's all. There's a wealth of knowledge they can get by getting into that home. Don't make them make that decision. Help them. Create a schedule that they can get into it. Give them teacher training. Send them somewhere. So we're in the South. It's hard for us to send our teachers to faith builders. So every summer, we put a program together where they read a book, do exercise, they meet once a week throughout the summer. I know this doesn't work for everybody, but here's just an idea. And we're giving them continuing education. If you're in a professional field, chances are you're required by your industry to have 40 hours of continuing education a year. Well, teachers are a professional field. They should have continuing education, and you should provide that for them. Resource procurement. They need computers or microscopes or lockers or whatever they need. Go out of your way to try to get that for them. Maybe you don't have the budget, but there's something you can do. Can't buy you a computerized microscope, but I found this at the yard sale for $25. Something, don't just say, no money for it, sorry. It doesn't work. They understand. Trust their skills and knowledge. Value their contribution and training, and genuinely appreciate them. If you have the heart of the shepherd and you care about them, they will know that. If they understand that you're their shepherd and they can trust you and you're going to protect them and you're going to correct them and you're going to be there for them when they're in trouble, they will trust you and they will feel appreciated and they will be blessed.